When we choose war, when a disagreement is framed as war, freedom slips, independence fractures, partnership falls away, learning stalls, growth withers, and peace has no place to land. The whole disappears. Hope falls silent. What remains is the void, dissolution, disconnection, separation.
So, as you know, we have two fabulous guests joining us tonight. We have Tzofnat Peleg-Baker, who's a scholar and applied social psychologist specializing in personal and professional growth through reflective practice. She developed a structured reflective instrument to help individuals and teams surface the cultural and social psychological dynamics that drive conflict, deepen learning, and support more informed decision making. And also, we have Mr. Bryan Hanson. He's a certified organizational ombuds practitioner, educator, mediator, facilitator, and leader in the field of conflict management. He currently serves as the ombuds for the graduate school at Virginia Tech, where he works with members of the graduate school community to help them engage and manage conflict constructively. Additionally, Bryan is the editor of the Independent Voice, the International Ombuds Association's public-facing blog. And without further ado, we want to bring in these heavyweights tonight. And so we're going to jump right into it. And the first question I have, and I'm going to pitch it to Tzofnat, but Bryan, if you want to chime in, feel free to do so as well. What is third party intervention? I know that's kind of the topic we wanted to look at tonight. So, exactly what is it, Tzofnat?
Yeah, it's a very important question. And it's amazing because everything that I've been doing, including this program about reflective practice and practicing reflective practice, always get to the core. What is our role in this situation as interveners? Always, right, Bryan?
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
amazing without planning. So for me, as an intervener, I want to be with the people who are involved in the situation. I don't like the concept of being neutral because it creates a distance from people. And I prefer impartial, but even beyond that, like being with each one of them in their pain, in their struggle, in where they want to go, what they need, even interest based, this terminology doesn't feel right for me because most of the things are underlying, what's going on underneath that we are unaware, myself too included. So you, Damon, can see things in me that I don't see. And I would appreciate your perspective so that I can expand my mind and grow. So in mediation, I think I want to be with people and understand where are they before suggesting any options, which I'm trying not to do at all. And it's amazing. It's very basic. You probably hear it from everyone you interview, nothing original, right? At the same time, like now I started doing family mediation. Okay, many years I haven't done that. I've taught family mediators, but I haven't been one myself. I've been doing community mediation, dialogues. Dialogue is at the heart of what I'm doing, and it's amazing to see how we are attached to the positions. Again, we all the time talk, for years and years, we talk about going underneath the positions, and we don't. How can you explain that? I'm asking you because it's beyond me. I don't understand that. The gap between the theory and the practice of it. It just amazes me.
Well, just to pick up on that and to kind of reflect on what does it mean to be a third party intervener. It's, you know, as a human, even though I'm an ombuds mediator, facilitator, I recognize how difficult it is when we are facing the struggles that conflict may bring, at least initially. And having that ability to provide, this type of service and be a third party intervener, whether I'm, helping them facilitate a process to find solutions or just coaching one-on-one as an ombuds, how can we work through this situation effectively? I just know that for those folks that utilize these services, it's that opportunity to really see this conflict differently and to kind of get past, those initial positions, those initial assumptions, those initial narratives of what might exist in their mind. And so, it's just really important to have that presence and for me as a ombuds mediator facilitator so that we can try to go deeper and try to help those individuals that are struggling, work through it in a productive way.
Right. Yeah.
I'm absolutely with that. And I am trying to remember my first experience in mediation.
Mhm.
I don't want to tell you how many years ago, many, many years ago. And I think it's a different experience for people who live in an individualist culture that we are so separated. Like we are separated physically, we think also mentally or spiritually we are separated, which we are not, in my opinion. So I remember like the first mediation I participated in, and I was at awe. Oh, there's a different way of being with one another. So I'm trying to remember that and not to get into the habits and routines and being indifferent to this experience. I always carry this with me, recognizing that when I see people for the first time, it's their first time. And I have to remember to have them engaged in a different way that will stay with them as it has stayed with me.
So then I want to go with for as the second question, and this is more so to you, Tzofnat, because you created the structure reflective instrument. And so I want to hear about that. Of course, I know our audience would love to. And then I want to know what was the inspiration behind creating that instrument, the structured reflective instrument.
So as I mentioned, learning is the trigger for me. Everywhere I have an opportunity to learn something new, I'm there. Okay. So at a certain point, after many years of practice in mediation, in conflict, in dialogue specifically, I got a scholarship to pursue a PhD after I had a master's already in something else. So I moved to the US, started my studies, my formal studies of PhD, and we were doing experiments we brought mediators to our lab, and we videotaped them doing the mediation. It was a role play, but very natural at the university setting between roommates. And we had, I think, about 20 mediators we recorded, and then we analyzed it for years. I still have those videos and still trying to analyze what's happening. And what was interesting is that those mediators had a chance to reflect, because we asked them after we showed them segments, we asked them questions, but not many accepted the invitation to reflect. Okay. And many failed in they had goals. For example, all of them wanted to go beyond solving the issue. Okay. All of them. They all said, and they also said, we are going to do it. But one after one, most of them just failed to do it for some different reasons. So this is when it started like percolating in my mind. They need something structured. They need to be asked questions so that it's easier for them to reflect. And at the time, and still is, debrief is the thing, right? So I started reading. I didn't find any literature about reflection in the conflict area. So I went outside. I went to management, education, of course, starting with Sean. If you know, he was talking about reflective practice, but never tested it in the lab. And then I went to medicine and expertise, cognitive processing, skills acquirement. I mean, I did my PhD in social psychology, and I had to develop like very deep understanding in developmental psychology, in cognitive psychology, and neuroscience. I mean, in all of them. That's my department. That was the program I was in. So I had the opportunity to learn about all this research. I can say, because we don't have much time, that medicine and expertise by Erickson made the biggest impact on me, because I understood from the research that, for example, in expertise, they say, right, we all know that they say about the 10 years. If you practice something 10 years, then you're an expert, right? Well, no. If you 10 years reflect on your experience, then you become an expert. Okay. So this is where I started forming this structure and this tool and many other tools. I work with many frameworks. This is just one of them for mediation, but it's actually good for any intervention. And I have very structured tool that reminds mediators and interveners about all the aspects, underpinning aspects that drive conflict, and how to address that in a way that, and we also know that mediators tend to say, oh, we are not therapists, we cannot do that. Well, if you have some knowledge, you can address emotional, relational, psychological, process-oriented issues. If you understand a little bit, you can ask open questions and help people to understand what drives their behavior so that we can get to the positions, right? But if we stay on the level of position, just back and forth and an impasse at the end. So this is where my graduate studies in social psychology, I focused on conflict and mediation. That's where I started building those frameworks.
Bryan, how have you applied this technique with your students or with the administration at the university setting?
Well, the way that I utilize this is for my own professional practice, and I've been a practitioner in this human-centered service profession for about 20 years now, and I've always sought out, kind of like Tzofnat said earlier, learning and trying to identify new ways to improve my practice is something that is really important to me. And one of the first books that really struck me in this profession was The Making of the Mediator by Michael Lang. And that's always been in the back of my mind, is how can I develop this expertise and hit this artistry level, or strive for this artistry level as a practitioner. And so when I found this program 2 years ago, it was probably about 2 years ago this time, that I saw Tzofnat and Michael providing this program, I was really excited about it and jumped in, and found that it really provides a substantial framework to really take the regular reflection about okay, how did I experience this engagement with my visitors today, or with the parties of a mediation today, And, what did I feel good about? What kind of felt off? And how can I improve that in the future? What am I going to apply to my practice based on these learnings? I feel like this SRI tool really brings that to a deeper level where I can really kind of consider, yeah, what was the identity needs that I could see in the parties that I worked with, and do I feel like I allowed them to uphold that identity and allow that to come out in an authentic way. And when it comes to the relational aspect, and in my work, I'm working with students, faculty, administrators quite often in these conflicts or these challenges that they're facing. And so ongoing relationships are very important. So really trying to identify, was there a change in that relational dynamic? And, what was it about this process that we engaged in, whether it's, just a coaching process or a mediation process, was there that opportunity to address those relational dynamics in a constructive way and hopefully try to set these relationships up for success in the future. So, that's really where this tool became, very valuable and beneficial to my practice is it's just creating a greater framework and a greater understanding of how I can consistently look deeper into my own practice, just like we want to look deeper into the conflicts, the narratives that those that rely on our service can benefit from.
Just to add, it's a goal oriented. So it helps you to decide, this person struggle with the relationship with their professor, their advisor. So how did I approach it? What did I ask about it? Did I make any progress with them to untangle the issues that they are struggling with? Or maybe next time, maybe I can ask it in a different way that will make more progress or advance more the openness of that student or graduate student who came to me. You can use it to improve your practice, basically.
Absolutely. And just kind of, I know we're at a closing moment, why this is so important, because in the work that we do, we often don't get that, quantitative feedback of this is how we impacted somebody. And so, just to keep ourselves aware, and instead of falling into just routines, this type of practice really provides that opportunity to really have, a critical analysis of how we are engaging on a day-to-day basis with those that we are serving.
Awesome. Well, you guys have been wonderful, and thank you for the insight. What I'm taking away is just diving deep, enriching those relationships, and making sure that we're going to deeper layers than the surface. And I think everyone who's watching and listening to this can attest to that. But you guys have been amazing. As we say on here, thanks for keeping it 100.